welcome all of you to this unusual and extraordinary graduation ceremony for many reasons. I would want to introduce myself a little bit, the project, and then we're foremost going to listen to Cynthia, um, who's going to explain what she's been working on for the last months. My name is Nynke Tromp. I'm an assistant professor at the Faculty of Industrial Design Engineering, and I had the opportunity to chair the project, supervise Cynthia in her work. But I didn't do this alone. I'm going to look for Vivian Tunn. Vivian, can you wave like, woohoo? No, you should also say something because else people don't see you. Vivian Tunn, she's a PhD at our faculty, nearly finishing her PhD, but her expertise is on circular business models. So that was very helpful for the project as well. And then we have Diane from Ieperen, from King Louie. Diane, can you shout out and wave? Hello. Hey, Diane. And Diane was her mentor from the company King Louie, for which Cynthia did her graduation project. And I want to give a little bit of an insight into the project from a sort of helicopter view. Design was used to be focusing a lot on products, physical things. Philips is a key brand within our discipline. You know, we make consumer goods. But more and more design is positioning itself as a discipline that can also help with the challenges we're facing, big complex problems, because we have a way of seeing the future maybe differently and better, and we can also make this tangible through the products and services that we develop. And I think Cynthia's project is highly timely in that regard. She's going to show a project for the fashion industry, which is, of course, an industry under pressure for many reasons, from human rights reasons, sustainability issues. The way we consume clothes is not tenable. You could say it's unsustainable and we need to change. But it's very difficult to do this. It's a system with many stakeholders who are in place who benefit from the way it is now. It taps into human drivers that are very powerful. We think it's very important that people think of us. We want to express ourselves. So fashion is a way of doing that, tapping into our human desires. So how to change the consumption of fashion in a way that's more sustainable? That's the big question that Cynthia has been working on for King Louie, because King Louie is a brand that wants to move into more sustainable practices, doing that already quite a bit, and therefore was interested in the project. So, Cynthia, I will hand over the floor to you.
Before I dive into my thesis, I just want to share a little bit of my personal experience here. Before I got interested in sustainability, I thought pro-environmental behavior change, that's just a lot of angry tree huggers. And then 4 years later, I joined a climate strike myself, and I thought, you know, this is inspiring, but it's still very angry. And this is logical because there's a lot of things to be angry about. The fashion industry in particular is very polluting, very complex. If you only just look at the greenhouse gas emissions, in every stage there will be a lot of pollution, and it's only estimated to grow, especially when you look at how overconsumption has almost doubled over the last few years because of fast fashion companies such as Zara releasing up to 24 collections a year. And then paired with that, there's a decrease in utilization of clothes. So 30% of clothes are left unused in a wardrobe, which is a little bit odd to me because there's so much we can do by just extending the life cycle of a garment by 3 months. We can have tremendous sustainability effects. So why aren't we doing this? Why aren't we just reducing our consumption? Yes, times are pressing for sure, and we need to stop consuming, but it's not realistic to entirely cease consumption because the planet is important, so are consumer needs, and with that, those will also shape business needs. So rather than adding to the negativity of the climate conversation and showing more anger, behavior change requires an interdisciplinary approach, and which is also human-centered. There are several ways for us to achieve sustainability. One of those is by shifting from a linear economy to a circular economy, as you can see in this model. So a circular economy is really about reusing our resources all the time. When you focus on the user in particular, they can share products, also prolong the product lifespan, or redistribute products with other people. A few examples of how sustainability can add both a business and a consumer value are these business models here. One of them is called the rental subscription model, which is really all over newspapers these days. And it's all about subscribing to this monthly subscription model where you can swap around your clothes for an unlimited time or a certain set of time. And then as a consumer, you get to try out all of these different styles without committing to buying anything new. Whilst as a business, you can have this long-term relationship with your customers. But the thing is that consumers are attracted to different business models based on their needs. When you look at someone who wants to stand out, for example, they would really love to be part of a rental subscription model because it allows them to change styles all the time. But at the same time, this can really cause some so-called consumer misbehavior. So moral licensing can happen because someone thinks that this service is very sustainable, so they can keep using it and even beyond what is sustainably justified. And on the other hand, consumer behavior can also really affect the financial viability of a business model. When you look at which business models have a very positive margin, subscription rental models are only very viable in the luxury segment. So we do have to keep all of these factors in mind, and rather than retrofitting existing solutions onto consumers, we need to understand their needs first and show how sustainability can then add value to these needs through a new service, which then shapes a new business model. And I'm doing all of this in the context of King Louie. King Louie is a vintage inspired clothing brand which strives to create happiness for women through unique colors, prints, and high quality materials, as you can see from these smiley faces on Instagram. And in terms of King Louie's strategic positioning, they really consider themselves very different from fast fashion brands such as H&M, but also brands such as Gucci, because they are this beautiful island of vintage inspired clothes. They are really a niche. And when you look at the customer segments, they are mostly focused right now on women between 35 to 55 years old. But as times are changing, they're also interested in reaching a younger target segment, maybe women around their 30s. So there's a lot of questions here that I wanted to answer with my project, and the goal is to design a service that will urge sustainable consumer behavior, but also fit the needs of all of its stakeholders. And my answer to all of these questions is one concept. It's called Recreate a Digital Wardrobe and Peer-to-Peer Styling Platform, of which you can see a little video when you follow this link.
Do you know the feeling when you keep filling your closets, but there's just no end to it? There will be clothes you love, and those you dislike, and no matter how hard you try, some clothes just keep going into the back of your closet. You've simply lost track of what you have and what you could do with it. So you just keep wearing the same clothes you love, like that favorite jumpsuit, you know, the one that's all over your social media feed already? Because it feels like you, and it's easy. But what if you could recreate your wardrobe and your style with everything you have? That's what the Recreate app is for, your digital wardrobe and peer styling platform. You can work on becoming the queen of your wardrobe simply by uploading pictures of your garments and reflecting on all the treasures you already have. Or, if you're a fan of a brand, simply select your garments from the database. This saves you time from uploading pictures yourself. The more clothes you add, the more personalized your content will become. Gain inspiration from different brands specifically tailored to your items. Or take a step further with your creativity by seeing how influencers transform similar items into something entirely different. Inspiration will be endless, as your peers can suggest outfits for you as well based on your digital wardrobe. Interact with your peers and experiment with your clothes. Together, you create the perfect new outfit from the clothes you haven't worn in forever. And if you're feeling creative, you can style yourself through several challenges, or become someone else's stylist by accepting challenges from your peers. Just take a look at their digital wardrobe. Discover their style, Then mix and match until you create that new outfit, making them revalue their disliked items again. For every challenge you finish, you gain style points, paving your way into becoming a full-fledged creative stylist. And these style points can help you love your clothes even more. Using your style points, you can ask styling advice from your favorite brands, or take things to the next level by learning how to consume sustainably, letting someone else repair or embellish your clothes, or learning how to do it yourself. Sometimes you just don't fit into your clothes anymore though. Rather than throwing them away, why not consider selling them on a second-hand web shop? And in case you do need something new, consider shopping consciously. Give new life to other people's pre-loved clothes by matching them with your current wardrobe before purchasing it. This way, only the outfits you love will enter your digital wardrobe. Say goodbye to impulsive shopping. Recreate will help you keep track of your progress. You can become anyone you want to be, whether that means being a conscious shopper, a queen of your wardrobe, or a creative stylist. Any challenge can be inspiring with Recreate.
So Recreate is the design solution that I came up with for King Louie, but obviously this solution didn't fall out of the sky. The first quarter of my project, I really focused on discovering and exploring the whole context through different research activities, and then using these research insights to really define my design direction, which I'll talk about here. So during my whole thesis, I focused on the whole customer journey, starting with some in-depth interviews. But I really realized that the most interesting part was really the highlighted one here, creating value by having or use your clothes or reflecting on clothes through digital, through wardrobe rituals. So how did I pinpoint these intervention opportunities? I used the COMBI model of behavior change to make sense of my research insights through an analysis of barriers and facilitators. So the COMBI model is all about looking at the behavior such as shopping and seeing how this behavior can be influenced through the capability that people might have, the environmental factors, so the physical and social opportunity, as well as the motivations we have. So reflective motivations are all about the conscious motivations we have, and then automatic motivation is much more about the subconscious stuff that's going on in our head. And I chose this model because it's tied to the behavior change wheel approach, which really is a nice guideline to show me which intervention functions or categories I can really look into, zoom into, so that I can choose the proper behavior change theories to work with in the detail of the app design. So this is just a visual view of all the insights that I gathered, labeled according to the COMBI model. But as I said, I will be focusing on these two stages as highlighted because these three main opportunities were really the most interesting, starting with the first one, which is that wardrobe rituals can prompt emotional effects. This is just a little bit of a diagram showing how people go from caring for their clothes to disposal. And I really wanted to focus on the left side of the diagram here because most women, regardless of their age or their lifestyle, had this biannual or casual wardrobe reorganization moment, which means that mostly during seasonal changes, they will put their summer clothes, for example, in a suitcase, rearrange their wardrobe, and put their wardrobe for the winter back in. And this really caused a moment of reflective behavior, also a very emotional moment because they judged the desirability of the clothing that was in a good state, and then it will decide whether they will keep certain clothes or not. And it also causes disposal uncertainty. So this is really the moment where Recreate taps into, because when people put aside their clothes, they might forget about them, and the app will really encourage people to think a second time about the clothes that they already have. The second opportunity that I found was related to the usage of clothes and how this depends on different values. So there are functional values, but there are also psychological values. And what struck me as most interesting was the value of self-expression, especially the way this fits with King Louie as a brand. King Louie is all about being unique, being slightly quirky, and just being yourself. So most of the women that I interviewed really felt joy when their self-image matched with the clothes that they wore. But at the same time, because they were working professionals, they had to express different identities through their clothing. And there's also an emotional aspect to clothing as well, because when they're feeling insecure, they might choose to wear different clothes than when they're confident. But I'll just talk a little bit more about the social influences as well, because another thing that I found was that there's really a value of having a hobby. So people love to think about how they mix and match different clothes to form their identity, but also discuss this with their peers through online socializing by sharing outfit of the day pictures. And here's just some examples of some King Louie customers in their Facebook group. I call them the experiential clothing users because they are not shy to show off their wardrobe through wardrobe tours. They're not shy to share outfit of the day posts, and they dare to ask for outfit advice as well. And then this really ties nicely into the third opportunity that I found, which is called the ripple effect by one of my participants. I will call her Anna for now. So Anna, as you can see here in the middle, is very sustainable. She was probably my most pro-environmental research participant because she was vegetarian. She used reusable bags and containers, and she transformed and repaired all of her clothes. And at the same time, she only had less than 30 clothes in her wardrobe. But Anna didn't get here on her own, so she had a little sister, which we call Annie, and then she became a vegetarian when she was a teenager. Because Annie and Anna lived together, they naturally influenced each other. And now that Anna is moving in with her boyfriend here, he's also turning a little bit more sustainable because they are moving into a very small Amsterdam apartment, and they have to be very conscious about what they bring into their new home. And summarizing all of this together, this really formed my design direction, which is about leveraging the social influences and feeding these into a new service that renews the self-expression value of clothes that women already own, starting at the wardrobe reorganization moment. And it's a bit of a mouthful, but it basically is summarized in these three behavioral principles. So persuasion is really about using emotions to cause behavior change, and that really ties in nicely with the wardrobe reorganization moment. Modeling is about providing an example for people to aspire to or intimate. So that's what the peer styling aspect is about. And then training, I chose this one because clothing requires some skills. If you want to use the clothes that you already have, people will have different skill levels, and we need the service to grow with people's skill levels as well. So I'll talk a little bit about the design development here. Obviously, we did some research, and then now we have to develop something concrete and see how we deliver the app for King Louie by the end of this project. So this is just a little bit of a visualization of my design process, very iterative, containing a lot of expert and experiential prototypes, so that at the end we can get to this concept, which is full of behavior change techniques that will really detail and create this behavior change that we want to achieve. So I'll talk a little bit about the design explorations. The first thing that I did was to have a very small scale test with fellow King Louie colleagues, asking them to style each other. And the first thing I realized was that I really have to carefully consider the sustainability consequences here. Because if you give people more clothes to style with during the styling process, which are not theirs, they will just get tempted to buy these new clothes because they get new outfits out of this. But on the other hand, a positive thing was that I really saw the value of using a peer stylist versus a professional stylist, because a professional stylist doesn't know you that well within those 15 minutes or 60 minutes that they interview you. A peer knows you and possibly your comfort zones as well. And then you really get this nice blend of styles between the two people. The second thing that I tried, well, this was nice and well, but then I thought the most painful thing about my concept is probably that you have to digitalize your whole wardrobe. So I did that. It's kind of a autoethnographic experience that I wanted to do. So it took 4.5 hours to photograph 166 items, which is my whole wardrobe, excluding socks and such. And yeah, it was a real emotional roller coaster road. I really went from, this isn't so bad, I need to do this for my thesis, to I forgot I had this, which was surprising. And then, well, when will this ever end? This was really driving me insane. And then being surprised by how many clothes I had, ending at, well, we're done. So, well, to be honest, I'm really looking forward to wearing my long skirts again. It's the one I'm wearing right now because during the time that I did this exercise, it was winter and now it's spring, so I can finally wear my long skirts again. And then I shared this digital wardrobe with my friends, asked four of them to style me for new winter outfits. And they created some new outfits for me, which was nice. But what was most interesting was that interviewing them, going into a conversation with them about the outfits really made me appreciate it even more. And even though the peer styling experience was enjoyable to my peers, I really had to consider some challenges as well to make it interesting on the long term. And also, they had some difficulties with image quality because a certain kind of red probably doesn't fit with another kind of red, and they need to know that to create a better outfit. So those were some things to just think about as well. And last but not least, I looked into some wardrobe apps because there are so many apps out there. How will I distinguish Recreate from all the others? You can see some that are more focused on a personal overview, and then those that are more focused on building a creative community. And Recreate definitely leans more towards the community feel of things, but their unique selling point is that it's focused on peer styling because none of the other apps have that. It's focused on an emotional journey and also focused on sustainability. So when you look at the value proposition of the Recreate app, as I said, the unique selling point is that people will gain specific and personal outfit advice through peer stylists. Oops. And obviously there will be some other gains there, but this is really what makes the app pop. And then there are some pains as well, as I said, the uploading of high quality pictures, but you can relieve these pains through technical tools as well as behavioral tools, which I'll talk about here. I laid out a very simplified customer journey here, and this basically lays out all of the steps that we have to go through to use the app. And like I said, it's a roller coaster ride, and you'll need different behaviors during each stage, which means you need different behavioral theories during each stage as well. Here are just some of the main behavior change techniques that I use. So the focus on persuasion is really communicated through information about consequences, the emotional consequences, and really tapping into people's sense of identity because we're working with self-expression here. And then regarding training, we want people to grow with the app. So there are graded tasks, which means that the complexity level will go up as people go along. And then the peer styling aspect, obviously, it's the demonstration of the behavior. But how about the sustainability considerations? I used the circular business model framework by my mentor, and this really points out that the research strategy of this business model will be based on the cycling of products from individual point of view and a collective point of view because they can share the clothes on a secondhand platform. And then ideally, this will decrease some of the consumption levels, but also this will require some consumer effort. And I did consider renting systems as well, but these may lead to more cost and pollution due to increased logistics. So I chose a peer-to-peer second-hand market, specifically the Next Closet, because it falls nicely in between fast fashion and luxury fashion. Also because it's a high-quality platform, only allowing certain pieces as well. And then obviously, because we're talking about the surface here, the first touch point is the app, and people will interact with wardrobe owners and peer stylists or both. And the second bubble of inspiration will be different kinds of brands. But if you want to take it a step further, you want to use the style points to take better care of your clothes or start renting clothes. And if you're ready for it, even repair them or learn how to do this yourself. That's all well nice in theory, but how about in reality? So I did do a customer validation session with 6 King Louie customers. In the first 3 days, I asked them to digitalize their wardrobe and based really focusing on the identities that they associate themselves with. And then in the second part, I paired people up to style each other, and then I wrapped up the session with an interview. And here are just some of the visual results and some of the learnings that people got. The first one was that new color combinations are possible. P5, for example, participant 5, she created this outfit for herself, which is monochromous, and she feels like this is something she would never wear because it feels very childish. And then her peer stylist suggested matching dark blue with ochre, and then this inspired this whole wardrobe session where she just pulled out all of her clothes in her bedroom, and it caused this tornado, as she called it. And she was really inspired by just this tiny new snippet of information. And then the second thing that people learned was that old items can indeed be loved again. When you look at participant 3 here, she got this green sweater from her mom a few years ago, and she never knew how to wear it because she just loves wearing skirts and such. And then her peer stylist suggested pairing it with a pair of jeans, which oddly enough, she never thought of herself. And then she loved it so much that she ended up wearing it the whole day. And the third learning was that the same item can be used for different styles. This woman here, participant 2, had this dress which felt very neat and preppy for her liking, but paired with these red boots, it suddenly felt sassy and much more like her. So, in this regards, I do believe that their perspectives changed due to their peer stylists, and some kind of nice social interactions also arose from this. So it ranged from positive encouragement, which was usually superficial, to asking for clarification of items. Again, the low quality of items caused discussion, causing people to respectfully doubt outfit suggestions, leading to clothing adjustment tips, and even spontaneously trying out new clothes, their new outfits, before I asked them to even do this. So that's nice, but how about the wardrobe digitalization experience? Certainly, that was a bit of a hassle finding a neutral background and proper light. But in retrospect, they did see the value of digitalizing their wardrobe, and especially framing the digital wardrobe experience as this self discovery journey was really enjoyable to people. So that was just some of the opinions related to my customers and King Louie's customers. How about expert validation? I reached out to several experts here, but the main Achilles heel of my project was really the business aspect of things, because I was so focused on behavioral science that I kind of didn't have so much time to work on the business aspect of things. But thankfully, my experts really gave me some tips in there. And the main business questions they asked me were, how do you attract investors for the initial 50 to 80K development cost of the first minimum viable product? Because obviously, the fashion industry is kind of upside down at the moment due to COVID-19. You'll have to depend on investors. And if you want to convince your investors what's going to be the revenue strategy, what's going to be the growth strategy, and as well, who will you partner with? How will you really implement this app? Personally, I do believe that the current political climate is beneficial for pro-environmental behavior change. So, the city of Amsterdam, for example, just launched its circular economy strategy this month, and it plans to support circular projects in various sectors, amongst which the textile industry. So, I think that's kind of a light at the end of the tunnel here. And then, how do we convince these investors? How will King Louie reach its break-even point? There are some revenue strategies here, according to my experts, and the most promising ones will probably be premium memberships and fashion brands that buy a position in the app. But any of these are possible, yet they are highly dependent on traction of the app. So this is why we have to talk about the growth strategy here and the value of brand partnerships, because the strength of the app really is that it has a strong network effect. If one person from King Louie gets acquainted with this app, then maybe they will ask another peer to join the Recreate app. And because this person is fan of King Louie, they might also ask someone else to join, and this waterfall of brand exposure kind of happens there if you collaborate with different brands. And it's really important here that King Louie will then collaborate with brands that are not style competitors per se, but brands that do have a minimalistic style that could match with King Louie's vintage roots, and then hopefully create this gateway to new consumer segments, such as the younger target segment that they are hoping to attract in the future. And last but not least, this is important because sustainability is a collaborative effort. You can't do this on your own. You need all of these partners to work with you, and this really influences the implementation roadmap as well. I'm obviously not a economic student or something, but this is just based on expert opinion. Just thinking, if you think about King Louie as a project owner, they will use the first 8 months to develop the first minimum viable product and campaign for this. And there will be no users by that time, but hopefully after a month, there will be about 500 based on comparisons with other apps. And once you gain traction, you can join accelerator programs. You can ask other brands to join in because they are starting to see the value of it. And by the time that you reach about 40K users, which is possible in 1.5 years, I believe, when you look at other wardrobe apps as well, you can really start thinking about your main revenue strategy, which is the usage of premium services. If you only just take 5% of these 40K users, which is, by the way, the percentage that people are willing to pay for a stylist, according to King Louie surveys, you will already gain a 20K revenue stream within 1.5 years if these 5% users are willing to pay 10 euros a year. And as you gain traction because of this, you can ask other brands to come in. And obviously, you're not just choosing any brand. You want to base them on certain sustainability criteria, size criteria, and also their fit with King Louie. And all of these recommendations are kind of based on some assumptions, which I didn't have time to research further, but it would be really nice if in the next steps, people could source the interest of this app amongst partners, but also amongst consumers to have this large scale validation, as well as doing a premium surface research to see what people are willing to pay for what. And by the end of it, you want to attract investors that are interested in sustainability. So you have to convince them about the behavior outcome. Will people really reduce their consumption through the use of the app? And when you look at the process of it, which of the behavior change techniques really cause this behavior change using the developed minimum viable product. So with this, I want to end this journey. This is as far as it goes for now, but thankfully I had a lot of help from different people making this journey less of an uphill battle, and I really want to thank them for that. And looking at my time, I'm at 29 minutes exact. So this is the end of my presentation.